Hello everyone. Uh, I am here today with the first chapter of Snapshot, that is The Summer of the Beautiful White Horse by William Saroyan. Now, this story is about two poor Armenian boys, Aram and Murad. They belong to a tribe known for its honesty for centuries. They both have a longing to ride a horse, but they are so poor that they cannot afford to buy a horse. So they steal a horse unknowingly that they are doing something wrong. But then the adventure goes on. Later on, they realize that they were doing wrong and they return the horse. How did they realize it? What made them return the horse? That is this story all about. The characters which are there in the story: Aram, who is the narrator, Murad, his cousin, then Uncle Khushro, John Byro, a farmer, and narrator's mother. Now, very first paragraph of the story is somewhat poetical in nature. Narrator says, one day back there in good old days when I was 9 and the world was full of every imaginable kind of magnificence and life was still a delightful and mysterious dream. When the world was, so which time he is actually talking about? What he is highlighting over here? He is highlighting the childhood days. Childhood, as we all know, is a period which is free of burden, carefree time, enjoyable. In a way, we can say that it is the most enjoyable period of one's life where everything seems to be delightful, everything seems to be mysterious, there is a lot of curiosity, and that is what the narrator is talking about. So, when he was 9 years old, one day his cousin Murad woke him up at 4 in the morning and he narrator jumped out of the bed, looked out of the window, but then what he saw, he could not believe it. It was still not complete morning, but it was summertime, so it was enough light to see the things outside, and narrator could understand that he wasn't dreaming. But what was the thing that he could not believe? He saw that his cousin Murad was sitting on a beautiful white horse. He rubbed his eyes. Looking at his reaction, Murad told him that he was not dreaming and it was a real horse. And if he wanted to ride, he has to come out quickly. Narrator says, I knew my cousin Murad enjoyed being alive more than anybody else who had ever fallen into the world by mistake. Now, what does this mean? This means that Murad enjoyed every bit of the life. Being alive means enjoying everything that was all around. But then, what he saw was beyond his belief. Now, here, narrator describes his desire of riding the horses. Now, this was, he says, wonderful part, but then there was another twist to it. They were very poor, and it was beyond their capacity to afford a horse. And that was the reason he could not believe what he saw. Now, the next paragraph, it talks about the tribe which the narrator and Murad belonged to. We were poor, we had no money. Our whole tribe was poverty stricken. Every branch of the Garoglianian family was living in most amazing and comical poverty in the world. Nobody could understand where we ever got money enough to keep us with food in our bellies. Not even the old men of the family. Most important of all, though, we were famous for our honesty. We had been famous for our honesty for something like 11 centuries even when we had been the wealthiest family in what we like to think was the world. We were proud first, honest next, and after that we believed in right and wrong. None of us would take advantage of anybody in the world, let alone steal. So here he describes the trait, the characteristic of his tribe. The Garogalian family, they were poverty stricken. It was very difficult to even make two ends meet. But then, even in that situation, they were known for their honesty, and this particular thing was not a new thing. It was since the time when they were actually the wealthiest family, 11 centuries old. This particular tradition of being honest was there. That's why he says, we were proud first, honest next. Proud of their tradition. And the most important thing for them was being honest. He adds to it, none of us would take advantage of someone, taking advantage of someone's condition or something like that. Stealing was a far-fetched thing. Consequently, even though I could see the horse so magnificent, even though I could smell it so lovely, even though I could hear it breathing, so exciting, I couldn't believe the horse had anything to do with my cousin Murad or with me or with any of the other members of our family asleep or awake. Because I knew my cousin Murad couldn't have bought the horse. And if he couldn't have bought it, he must have stolen it. And I refused to believe he had stolen it. Now you see some of the words here in italics. Now these words are verbs which are not used in their ing form. And then we see the perfect construction, perfect tense construction, have bought, have stolen. He could see the horse, he could feel its presence, but he was not ready to believe it. Why he was not ready to believe it? Because the horse was beyond their capacity. So it must have been stolen. And his heart refused to accept the fact that Murad had stolen the horse. But then it was there. No member of the Garogalian family could be a thief. I stared first at my cousin and then at the horse. There was a pious stillness and humor in each of them, which on the one hand delighted me, on the other frightened me. He was happy as well as frightened. Reason? He was delighted to see the horse, his dream about to be fulfilled. But at the same time, he was frightened with the thought that this horse must have been stolen. So he asked, where did you steal this horse? But Murad did not give the answer to that question. He just said that if you want to ride the horse, come out quickly. Now when you ask someone a question and you get a different answer, so it is a certainty that the person is trying to avoid giving the answer. And that made narrator believe that the horse was stolen and he had come there to invite him. Well, it seemed to me stealing a horse for a ride was not the same thing as stealing something else such as money. For all I knew, maybe it wasn't stealing at all. If you were crazy about horses the way my cousin Murad and I were, it wasn't stealing. It wouldn't become stealing until we offered to sell the horse, which of course I knew we would never do. In heart he knew that the horse was stolen, it was a wrong thing to be done. But at the same time, there was that overpowering desire, longing, deep longing to ride a horse. So now Aram is trying to justify the whole act. He says that this is not stealing. He's trying to just clear that guilty conscience by giving the logic and reason behind it. He said that it is not a stealing. Stealing a horse or riding was not stealing at all. It would become stealing when they will sell it for money, and they were not going to sell it. And so he put on some clothes, lived out of the window, sat behind his cousin Murad. That year we lived at the edge of town on Walnut Avenue. Behind our house was the country, vineyards, orchards, irrigation ditches and country roads. In less than 3 minutes, we were on Olive Avenue and the horse began to trot. The air was new and lovely to breathe. The feel of the horse was wonderful. my cousin Murad, who was considered one of the craziest members of our family, began to sing. I mean, he began to roar. So that year we lived on the edge of the town. Means they were moving from place to place. Now, country means the rural side. So there were various things over there. It was the morning time, the air was fresh, and that's why he says the air was new and lovely to breathe. And then, when they were moving on, Murad started to sing, and his singing was not singing actually, it was roaring. Every family has a crazy streak in it somewhere. And my cousin Murad was considered the natural descendant of the crazy streak in our tribe. Before him was our Uncle Kushro, an enormous man with a powerful head of black hair and the largest moustache in San Joaquin Valley. A man so furious in temper, so irritable, so impatient that he stopped anyone from talking by roaring. Now this particular paragraph is talking about Uncle Kushro. He was easily irritable. Irritable means the person who can be easily irritated. And he always talked in loud voice. And his favorite line was, "It is no harm, pay no attention to it." That was all, no matter what anybody happened to be talking about. Once it was his own son Arak running 8 blocks to the barber shop where his father was having his moustache trimmed to tell him the house was on fire. This man, Kushro, sat up in the chair and roared, "It is no harm, pay no attention to it." His son went running to inform him that their house was on fire, but this man, Kushro, did not pay any attention to it, just roared, shouted, "It is no harm, pay no attention." The barber thought maybe the man has not understood. So he tried to say that it was his house which was on fire. And so Kushro again said, "Enough, it is no harm, I say." My cousin Murad was considered the natural descendant of this man. So he says that there is a crazy streak in the family. In the earlier, the generation before him, it was Kushro. Now it was Murad. Though Murad was not the son of Kushro. He was son of Jorah, who was very practical and nothing else. But then he says this is how it is in their tribe. A father may be just father of his child, but his characteristic, his nature may not be present in his child. The distribution of various kinds of our spirit of our tribe had been from very beginning capricious and vagrant. We wrote and my cousin Murad sang. For all anybody knew, we were still in the old country where at least according to some of our neighbors we belonged. We let the horse run as long as it felt like running. At last my cousin Murad said, "Get down, I want to ride alone." Here we see the discussion between the older one and the younger one. It generally happens when there are brothers and sisters or brothers, one of them is elder, one of them is younger, and the elder one wants something on uh, on his or her own, but the younger one also insists to have the thing. So it is the conversation between Aram and Murad. So when Murad said that he was going to ride the horse alone, Aram asked, "Will he be also allowed to ride alone?" So he said that this is up to the horse. So Aram insisted that the horse will allow him. He said, "We shall see." But then at the same time, asserting his experience or age, he said, "Don't forget that I have a way with a horse." Well, I said, "Anyway, you have with a horse, I have also. For the sake of your safety," he said, "let us hope so, get down." "All right," I said, "but remember, you have got to let me try to ride alone." I got down. And my cousin Murad kicked his heels into the horse and shouted, "Waziri," that was in Armenian, "run." The horse stood on its hind legs, snorted, and burst into a fury of speed that was the loveliest thing I had ever seen. It was a lovely sight for Aram. My cousin Murad raced the horse across a field of dry grass to an irrigation ditch, crossed the ditch on the horse, and 5 minutes later returned, dripping wet. The sun was coming up. "Now it's my turn to ride," I said. My cousin Murad got off the horse. "Ride," he said. Now, narrator, he jumped onto the back of the horse. But then, he did not know what to do. The horse did not move. Now Murad, who was standing there, he became impatient. He said that, what are you doing? Kick in the muscles. They don't have the whole day. And then narrator did as he was instructed. Once again it reared and snorted. Then it began to run. I didn't know what to do. Aram had no idea that how to control the horse. Now instead of running across the field to the irrigation ditch, the horse ran down the road to the vineyard of Dikra Halabia, where it began to leap over vines. The horse leaped over 7 vines before I fell. Then it continued running, and finally the horse threw him off the back. But Murad was not much worried about whether Aram was injured or not. He was worried about where the horse was. And so he asked him to go in another direction, and he himself going in another direction to find the horse. And finally, they could find the horse. And then they started back. So Aram asked, what was his plan? So he said that he may be hiding it till the next day. But in his voice there was no, what you can say, concern or anything. And so he very well knew that he was not going to return the horse. Murad was not going to return the horse, rather he was going to hide it. So he asked which place. So he said that he knew the place. Now this curiosity was going on in the mind of Aram, and he could not control it. So he finally asked, how long did you steal this horse? Because looking at the way Murad was riding the horse, it became clear to Aram that this was not the first day he was riding the horse. He had been riding it for a time. But then Murad just avoided the question by saying that who is said anything about stealing a horse. So Aram changed the question. Anyhow, I said, how long did you begin riding every morning? So Murad said, this is the first day. So he said, Aram said that whether he was speaking truth or not. So he said, of course not. But then, if they are found out, that is the thing they have to say, so that they are not caught as liars. Their answer has to be same. He walked the horse quietly to the barn of a deserted vineyard, which at one time had been the pride of a farmer named Fatavia. There were some oats and dry alfalfa in the barn. After that, they started back home. It wasn't easy, he said, to get the horse to behave so nicely. At first, it wanted to run wild. But as I have told you, I have a way with horse. I can get it to want to do anything I want it to do. Horses understand me. So he explains that it was difficult in the beginning to control the horse. But then later on, as he has a better understanding of the animal, he was able to control it. So Aram asked that how is he able to do all these things? So he says that I have an understanding with a horse. Yes, but what sort of an understanding? A simple and honest one. Well, I said, I wish I knew how to reach an understanding like that with a horse. You are still a small boy, he said. When you get to be 13, you will know how to do it. You may have heard this particular line many a times, especially from your elder brothers or sisters, that they may be saying that when you come to this particular class, then you will know what is the burden of studies and all that. Similarly, Murad, who is older, he says that when he will reach the age of 13, he will also be able to understand how to do it. After that, Aram went home and ate a hearty breakfast. Here we end with the first part. In the second part, I'll continue with the story. Thank you.